Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Hajani, and basically, all my friends, well, rather, none of my friends read. I only know one other person that reads books, and that's my cousin, but we don't read the same types of books, so it's kind of like unfortunate. So I'm really just creating this channel so I can talk about these books. So it'd be cool if like at least one other person was there to talk about these books. Because I looked on Goodreads. So I tried to do this on Goodreads. I went on Goodreads and no one shared my exact opinion. I'm not asking for anyone to share my exact opinion, but it just felt like everyone still sometimes enjoyed the books that I enjoyed nothing of. So maybe there's a community out there somewhere on the internet that might have similar taste and then they could recommend me books because right now I'm just going with book recommendations from like YouTubers, which some of them are decent, some of them are not. And so today I'm going to record a review, kind of just a discussion of Vampire Academy. So Vampire Academy, I read books 1 to 5, and I'll start with book one. So book one starts with Rose Hathaway, which is our protagonist, and she has this best friend called Lisa, and we see that they're in the human world. I don't remember exactly where they were. I think they were in like, yeah, I don't remember where they were. Portland. Portland. I don't know which state Portland is in, but they were in Portland. And we can see that Rose can see Lisa's dreams. Immediately I'm like, okay, cool. She can see her dreams, but what does that mean? In her dreams, there was a car crash and blood and death, and so Rose wakes her up. Well, wakes up Lisa before all that like affects her in some way, and then eventually she gives her some blood. Which okay, I'm like, okay, it's my very first vampire book. By the way, I've never read a vampire book. I've never like watched a vampire series or anything like that. So this is my very first vampire book. I've of course heard the trope of biting necks and sucking blood. But at the end of the day, I don't really know much about vampires at all. So I was just like, cool. Oh, also, this is my iPad. I have like some bullet points of stuff I wanted to talk about, as well as the book itself on my iPad. Just so I can look at the highlights that I highlighted from this book. But cool. So we meet these two, and then eventually we see this guy out the window looking through some teenage girl's window, kind of creepy. But then we realize he's from a vampire academy or something like that, and he was sent to retrieve them. Long story short, they show us that Lisa has some kind of power to make humans fall to her will, and so she gets a human to give her his car keys. They run out. They get caught by this guy. He takes them on this fancy private jet back to an academy, and we don't know why they left in the first place. Now, the very first person that they see, apart from the principal, which I, I'm kind of like a sucker for like magic academies with a headmaster, and of course, it's because the very first book I ever read was Harry Potter, which you're probably thinking that was when I was 8, but actually, no, it was when I was 18, which coincidentally was just about 6 months ago. Actually, it's February, so it's like 7 months ago. I started reading in June of 2023, and so far I have read 50 books. So I think that's pretty decent for the time I've been reading. And the first books I read were Harry Potter. But anyways, I'm kind of getting away from the point. So this starts off with them going to school. The Victor Dashkov guy is there, and he's so happy. He's the only person Rose was happy to see, which instantly, like any kind of trope, you're just going to know. You're just going to know this guy. This guy is the bad guy. So cool. We know Victor Dashkov's the bad guy. What else happens in the book? The book continues. Rose has to train. She almost gets expelled just because she has this bond thing with Lisa, her best friend, where she can like read her emotions and sometimes get sent into her head. I I also this book was for me it felt like Harry Potter book one where she was just like the author was just introducing the world. We had high school life, and so in this book we had high school life with kind of petty high school girl drama. I really don't get why Mia disliked Lisa so much. So Mia Rinaldi is another character. I guess I kind of jumped the gun. But anyways, after a while, they let Rose stay, but she has to do afternoon classes. She has to do a lot of classes afternoon, and every free time she has to be doing some kind of class. Cool. Rose does this. She's getting better. She was the best in her class before, but now she's fallen behind because for 2 years, they were in the human world for God knows why. Cool. And then all of a sudden, we meet Lisa's ex boyfriend, which his name was I forgot his name. I don't think we ever like spoke about the guy after. Like we saw him one other time, but he had no real personality or character, much like many of the characters in this book. And he was with this new girl called Mia Rinaldi. Now Mia, for some reason, had a vendetta against Lisa. I don't actually know why. She just kind of hated the girl. And so anyone who associated with her, she just hated her. And so she started to spread these rumors. She started giving her bad looks. Typical high school, not typical high school, but theoretical typical high school girls, like in books, like the way that they portray high school mean girls, I guess. We find out that Mia is poor. It's apparently a very big disrespect to be poor. She's not a royal, so cool, because I think there are 12 royal families, and Lisa, coincidentally, is one of them. She's the princess. And remember in the first part where I was talking about some car crash? Yeah, that was the car crash that her parents were in. And well, all of them were in the car, her parents and her brother, as well as Rose. And they all died except for Rose and Lisa. For some mystery reason, Rose seems to be gifted with life. So that's great. But then they continue and then they realize that, well, sorry, I'm jumping the gun again. Back to Mia, right? She's being mean to them, whatever, they're continuing with life. And then they go to church service. Now Rose doesn't believe in God, and this is Orthodox Russian religion. So Rose doesn't believe in this. She just goes there for the social life, which she mentions a lot in this book that she does that. Cool. And she realizes that they mentioned something about this person called Shadow Kissed Anna. And Anna was the guardian for, or I don't know if she was a guardian or partner. I don't remember if she was a guardian, but she was something to deal with this guy called Saint Vladimir, which is the school's namesake. So they go to Saint Vladimir's academy, and this guy apparently could walk miracles. He could heal people. He could, wherever he'd walk, daffodils or flowers would just pop up or whatever, something like that. And apparently that was very cool back in the day. And so he has the name of the school. But anyways, he has this assistant, sidekick, guardian. I don't know what she is to him. I forgot. Her name was Anna, and she was able to have this bond thing that Lisa and Rose have. This bond where she can kind of read his emotions, and it was said in the text in the priest in the church in the priest by the church that she was able to help Vladimir, Vladimir through his rough times, because apparently this power makes you insane. And so, to everyone's knowledge, right, Lisa, which is the best friend, she's a Moroi. So I guess I should have explained this earlier, but a Moroi is different from a Dhampir, which is different from a Strigoi. So a Moroi is a living vampire. They can use magic. They're long, tall, slender, and a little pale. Cool. Apparently, a lot of them are just very attractive. Dhampirs are the mixing between Moroi and humans. So Dhampirs get kind of like the best of both worlds, except they don't have magic to the best of my knowledge. So Dhampirs get human builds, so they're a little bit shorter, but they're a little stronger built. The women often have more curves and features like that, which Rose mentions a lot. Trust me, she tells you every chance she gets, just how amazing her body is. And I mean, every time she gets a chance, she says it. We love confidence, but sometimes I get kind of bored reading this book, or got kind of bored reading it after a while. But cool. And then there's Shigoi, who are the evil vampires because they're evil for a reason. Because I think they have to drain someone else's blood or kill them intentionally, or do some weird sacrifice thing with Morois. Like Morois can do that to turn Strigoi, and when you turn a Strigoi, your eyes turn red, and apparently you lose like your soul or something, and you become evil. I don't know what evil means, and I was really hoping that the book would explore what they mean by evil in this context, because I thought that maybe one of our main characters would turn Strigoi eventually, and we'd really get to see from their perspective. But long story short, it doesn't really happen, so we don't know exactly what it's like to be a Strigoi, but we get pretty close. And so there's Shigoi, Moroi, Dhampirs. Moroi are viewed as like the kings. They're the nobility of society. Well, not really, not all of them. So there's Moroi, they're just generally viewed as nobility, and then there's the royal family, or I say family, but the family is actually mixed of it contains 12 different houses. So you have the Ivashkovs, the Dragomirs, Dashkovs, Dragomirs, Dashkovs, Dragomirs, Ivashkov. I don't remember the rest of the names. There's 12 families. Selsky, a bunch of other families. I just don't remember, to be honest. But you never really hear from them, so it's not that deep. But yeah, you have a bunch of those families, and they're the ones who elect a queen from among their ranks. So cool, they elect a queen, you know, so 12 royal families. And the Dampiers, remember I told you they were like stronger and more well built in terms of muscle mass and stuff. They just accept the role of bodyguard. So they're now just the bodyguard of these Merois, these royals. And the reason that the book gives us is because the Dampiers need the Moroi to reproduce. So remember I said that Dampiers were half human, half Moroi? Well, they're not actually able to reproduce with each other. I think just like some weird DNA genetics thing. So they're only able to reproduce with Morois. So because of that, they say that they have to become these things called guardians, which protect Moroi from Strigoi, because Strigoi like to eat Moroi, because when they eat Moroi, they get more powerful, blah blah blah. And so Dampiers try to protect them so that their race can continue. Now, if someone was doing this, like I don't agree that this is the only way they could have done it, especially with the way that Moroi treat Dampiers. So Dampiers are their bodyguards. They want to, the people want them to be seen but not seen. That's a very big trend. And another trend is like them saying, like not them, well actually no, they themselves, the Dampiers, it seems to be rooted into them to talk about the fact that they come first, the Moroi come first. And this is something that I thought was very, I thought it was something that was going to be challenged later in the book. I also have the ideas that they put forth, it never really gets challenged. But anyways, so that's currently the hierarchy of society. So after they speak to the principal and they're settling down and they know Mia Rinaldi is mean to them, whatever, they try to get into like the gist of things. So we kind of realize that the reason why they semi-left is because they felt like someone was watching them. I don't know what that means. Like, I'm going to be so real. I don't know what that means. They felt like someone was watching them and they had to get out. But we'll get to that later on anyways. So they're just trying to live their lives. We find out that Rose is supposed to be outgoing, while Lisa is more of a quiet one. So immediately I'm thinking, okay, it starts the book. Lisa's quiet, she's kind of soft. Rose is the decisive one. It would be cool if Lisa could evolve as a character, and not just be soft all the time and depending on Rose. And we kind of see that later on. But anyways, that's what happens. Rose tells Lisa to stay out of trouble, so she tries not to go back to the same royal circles that she was in, because of course Lisa was in Lisa isn't good with those royals, because in the future, those same royals who she's at school with are going to be the people electing the new queen and stuff like that. New queen or king, it doesn't have to be a queen, but they have a queen in this book, so I just assumed it was a queen. And so she tries to lay low. Rose, on the other hand, apparently has a very lively sex life. Well, she has never had sex, and of course they let us know that in the very first page. I think she talks about getting bitten by Lisa. Oh, I forgot to talk about that. But actually, I guess I'm going to talk about it a little bit later. But yeah, so Rose, on the other hand, is out with a decent amount of guys. She has Dimitri. Remember that guy who was outside the window looking at them, who brought them back to the academy? Yeah, that's Dimitri. So that guy, he starts to tutor Rose, and somehow, magically, they fall in love. How they fall in love is so beyond my comprehension. But they fall in love somehow. It doesn't make any sense. They don't have any chemistry in the books. In the books, they literally just train, and then all of a sudden, she loves him, he loves her. If she loves him, that's different, right? She's 17, he's 23. She loves him, that's different. Cool, teenage girls can have crushes. That's completely fine. But what does he love about her? And I think they should have two completely different ideas of love, right? A 17-year-old's idea of love. Like, while 17 and 23 are not that much of a difference. I think 17 and 24 actually. So while 17 and 24 are not, is not that much of a difference in terms of years, which it is when you shouldn't be dating a 17-year-old. She's underage anyways, right? He's 24. He should know that he's a teacher. Two different rules this guy's breaking. But anyways, I think they should have completely different maturity levels, especially for a guy like Dimitri, who seems to take a lot of time for introspection. It seems as though he must really think deeply about society, rules, because he knows a lot about this stuff. So I was assuming he'd have a little bit more sense than to start trying to date a 17-year-old. But he tells her anyways. He tells her that they can't date because for whatever reason. He tells her this at the end of the book, and I know I'm rambling, and I know I'm rambling from like different parts of the book. I'm running from A to Z in the book and just piecing together information, but it's really just annoying to me. Just the way that they do that whole Demetria thing. Like her liking him is fine, but him liking her back or even giving an inclination that he likes her back is not okay to me. So the first thing that really bugged me, and I have it here in my iPad, the first thing that really bugged me was Lisa's softness. No, that's not a problem. So why Lisa is soft deals with her power. So Lisa did not specialize. So normally Moroi can specialize in four different types of magic. So we have, I think it's air, water, earth, and maybe and fire. Yes, fire. And Lisa doesn't specialize, or at least I don't think she specializes, because in fact she specializes in a special type of magic called spirit. And spirit is what allows her to heal dead people. Yep, because she healed their best friend Rose. Because remember that car crash? Yeah, in that car crash, Rose actually died, and Lisa healed her. And when she healed her, she formed that bond, and that is why Rose can feel Lisa's emotions. And so that's the same thing that Vladimir would have had to do with Anna to have her get a bond. He saved her life, and because of that, she had a bond. And so the same thing happened with Rose. Cool. Why did she heal Rose and not her brother or her parents? I don't know. Me personally, right? If you're in a car crash, like maybe it was just instinctual that she just healed whoever was nearest to her. But if they're all in a car, I'm assuming it's going to be a five-seater car. I'm assuming either parent can be driving. But let's just say, for a simplicity sake, the father drives. This is the mother sitting down. I'm not trying to be misogynistic or anything, but let's just say the father drives and the mother sits in the passenger seat. And then let's say Lisa sits in the middle, Rose sits on the right side, and her brother sits on the left side. Now, Lisa ends up healing Rose, which is not her family, and family seems to mean a lot to this girl. I don't really get it, but cool. After doing that, she became a lot more unstable. Lisa also cuts herself a lot. So I'm reading this as everything is new to me, so I'm at least somewhat mentally stimulated. And I'm like, cool, Lisa has these problems. She starts to cut herself every time she uses spirit because spirit drives you insane. And so it was always special or questionable, like, as to why Saint Vladimir did not get insane. And we'll realize that later. I believe it's book 3 that we really understand why he didn't go insane and why I think he might have actually just been a worse person. But anyways, next thing that really bothered me in this book was Rose is just annoying. Now, the banter in this book at first, I thought it was a little humorous at first, to be honest. Rose was always kind of snarky. She always had a good comeback. I think I must have highlighted something. No, I didn't. Or I probably did, but I can't see it immediately. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, so like okay, so I thought it was okay, but then there are certain parts that kind of got me a little bit like kind of it was kind of lame. So like this part just says, I gave him what I hoped was a seductive smile as I found my seat. Sure, I called over my shoulder if I was ever good, because someone just asked her, "Can't you ever get off for good behavior?" She gave him that seductive smile. Sure, she called over her shoulder if she was ever good. At this point in the book, I was just kind of like, that was kind of lame, but I'm not going to judge. I'm starting to get used to this rose humor kind of wit, kind of like cool. I'm just trying to get over it, but it was getting annoying. So that was another thing that kind of bothered me in this book. The third thing I have here is Rose and Dimitri. In the brackets, I have like age, no chemistry, which is very true. Like like it just doesn't make sense why they. I remember reading the book, and I read all this series very fast. I read it in like a week. And I remember reading, I was just like, how? How is it that he likes her and how does she like him? They didn't do anything. Not like they did anything sexually. I mean, they didn't go on a date. They never shared anything. The only thing I've ever seen is that she gets beaten up by him in their training. And I mean, if that's what you like, then fine. But I didn't see why he would like her unless he's into that kind of thing. But yeah. Next thing is the Mia drama. So remember Mia Rinaldi? She's dating Lisa's ex-boyfriend and she's mean to them. She spreads rumors that Rose is a blood whore. Now, a blood whore is someone, a dhampir, who allows Moroi men to bite their necks while having sex. And this is seen as taboo because apparently when dhampirs get bitten, it releases a lot of endorphins in their blood. And so when you're doing that while at the pinnacle of human pleasure, apparently it's something that's very wrong. For whatever reason, I still don't really get it. I mean, me personally, right, if I was a dhampir, and I had that opportunity, I probably would do it. I don't see the problem. But anyways, this is apparently very taboo in this book, and she spreads a rumor that Rose, who's trying to be a guardian, because guardians are the ones who protect the Moroi, she spreads a rumor that Rose is a blood whore. Now, this is about like the worst thing you can say to a teenage girl. I don't actually know what the worst thing you could say to one IRL is, because I don't talk to teenage girls. Okay, I don't know what the worst thing you could say IRL is, but I imagine whatever the worst thing you could think of, that's about the worst thing you could spread a rumor about. And coincidentally, the way Mia actually got this rumor out was that she slept with two guys to get them to say that. Not at the same time, but later comes out that she did that. I think it got out. I'm not sure if it did, but yeah, that's what happens. But teenage drama. I don't really get the Mia drama. Apparently, later on in like a further book, or it might be even this book, it's all up there to me. But apparently, Lisa's brother, who she sees as a saint herself, was very mean to Mia. I think they hooked up, and I think he just ditched her or something. Very weird though, because the guy was Andreas was his name. He was a year older than Lisa, and Mia is a year younger than Lisa. So he's dating 2 years down, and kind of feels weird in high school because at that time he'd be a senior. Actually, no, because he would have left high school because Mia is in her second year. Okay, so it's like a senior dating like a freshman. I think that's kind of weird. But I don't even go to high school in America, so I wouldn't even know. I'm not even in America. Anyways, so next thing I have was Victor Dashkov. Was obvious, cool. He kidnaps Lisa and tries to make her his healing slave because she can heal, and he has this irreparable disease that no normal things can heal. So he wants to use her spirit power, so he kidnaps her and uses her spirit power to heal him. Well, she has to use it because he tortures her. Cool. He's very upset that he didn't get this before because it was that power that he needed to become king, because he would have very much been the next king, but because of this power no one could give him that because he wasn't going to live for very long. Cool. Now there's something else that happens, and I don't know why Mia is even making fun of this, but basically dead animals keep showing up right in front of Lisa's eyes. Now, not dead, but just about to die. So, for example, there's a fox. I think it was a fox. Lisa goes into her bedroom, and there's a more than half dead fox just about to die on her bed, and she shares a room with Victor Dashkov's daughter called Natalie. Natalie. So she Natalie was apparently very, you know, a scholar type person. She didn't hang out with the royal crowd. She was humble or something. I'm not quite sure. She didn't really. I didn't really know much about Natalie. I was like cool. She's there. She's a character, and so she shares a room with Natalie. And so one time Lisa went into her room and there was a dead fox on her bed. It's not dead, but it's almost dead. And so she reached out to heal it, but by the time she touched it, it was already dead. And Rose, using her bond, found Lisa in the bathroom crying because she couldn't heal the fox, and Lisa was cutting herself or something like that. She cut herself because I'm not exactly sure why she cut herself, but she cut herself. Cool. Lisa needs therapy, which is something that actually happens in the book, which I thought that was great because she definitely needs therapy. But the problem I had was that no one. So this wasn't a one time thing; it was a multiple time thing. So it happened once in the bed. It happened once when she was out in the open. It happened another time. I think some other time when she did something, but I don't know what the person's called, but I guess you'd say like the security guard of the girls' dorm, because this is a boarding school. Moroi send their children to the boarding school because it has wards up, and these wards prevent the undead or the Shigoi from going through the wards, so it keeps their children protected a lot more than they would be outside of the wards if they had like normal homes. So the children live there. So the house matron is what she was called. She swears up and down that no one could have come into this house. No one could have come into the dorms. So why don't you start investigating the people in the dorm? Like maybe her roommate. I thought it was very obvious that Natalie was obviously the one planning this or doing some stuff with this. Maybe she didn't plan it. She was acting on orders. Cool. And so I just didn't get why they didn't do that. It was one of the things I just really didn't understand. But I'm like, cool. The next thing I have is like they come first. I already told you that absolutely kills me. Why do the dampers keep saying they come first, they come first, they come first? What I think, my speculation, which is unconfirmed, but I think that in ancient times, a spirit user, a really powerful spirit user, which is like the power that Lisa has. I think a really powerful spirit user, like, put some kind of charm on the Dhampir race that would let them keep this mentality so that Moroi could keep having free protection, kind of. I think they get wages, but it's nothing serious. I mean, you're spending 6 days a week, 24 hours a day with this person trying to protect them, and you don't have your own life. And this whole they come first thing, it really irks me, but whatever. Cool. And then, it wouldn't be so bad if they just did that and the Guardians and then the Moroi treated them like real people. But no, the Moroi treat them as though they're like dogs. They treat them horribly. Like, these guys are giving you like, not free, but free protection. Like, why can't you just treat them properly? Cool. Now, the very last part of this book, book 1, is this. Let me find the exact line, but basically it's with Rose and Dimitri. Well, actually, no. Actually, no. Another thing that just kind of happened in the book is that Rose sees a raven, one of the ravens that Lisa had healed back in the old days. Like, when she just first found out about her power. Well, she didn't know it was spirit, but she just first found out that she could heal things. There's this raven, and she healed it, and now it has the same bond to Rose. Not to Rose, to Lisa. The same one that Rose has. Now, we never ever hear about this raven ever again. It was just like thrown in at the end of the book. Cool. But the reason why they even knew about this, or well, the reason why they knew about these healing powers and that they shouldn't, and the reason why they've ran away from school was because of this lady called Miss Carp. Now, Miss Carp was a spirit user herself, but she seemed to be going insane, right? And Miss Carp one day saw them outside, and she saw when Lisa healed a bird, and then Miss Carp told Rose to never let her use that power again, or else they will come and take her and whatever. And then eventually, I think it's implied that Miss Carp used compulsion on Rose. Not sure if she actually did, but yeah, and tried to get Rose to get Lisa away from the people. I don't know who she was talking about. I don't think it ever becomes apparent. I think, unless she means Victor Dashkov, but she said those people. So I was thinking maybe like a secret organization with the most elite royals who would use this power for bad. But I don't think she meant Victor Dashkov. But anyway, she influenced Rose to leave. Rose ended up leaving. Cool. And so it does show here. It actually does show why Saint Vladimir didn't go insane in this book. I thought it was another book, but it's because all the darkness. Well, we later learned it's called like darkness. All the darkness that was in Saint Vladimir got taken out of him and put into Shadowkissed Anna. So he was able to transfer his darkness, or the things that would make him insane, and put it into Shadowkissed Anna. And we learned that Shadowkissed Anna has the unfortunate fate of suicide. And I thought that was just ridiculous. Like, this guy is seen as a saint, but he literally took his darkness kind of and gave it to Anna. And it was too much for her to handle until she killed herself. And this guy's still seen as a saint. I just think he just used her. Like, it's like a garbage bin, he takes all his garbage, puts it in the garbage bin, and just goes away with it until he gets to eat his cake and eat. He gets to have his cake and eat it too. Cool. So because of Shadowkissed Anna, he's not insane, whatever. That was basically all that happened in the book. Oh, last thing, Natalie. Remember Natalie? We found out that after Victor Dashkov was captured, because of course he kidnapped Lisa, they captured him because of Rose's bond, blah blah blah. He's in prison right under the school, not a real prison, just a holding prison. And we find out that Natalie becomes a Strigoi to go free her father. She frees him, he runs off, and then they catch him again. But the whole time, what I didn't get was Victor Dashkov always looked like he was in control. He always looked so like this was what was supposed to happen. Like when he got captured again, he's like, oh yeah, this should happen. And he just looked like he had a plan. And it turns out he didn't have a plan. I don't know why. I guess he was just bluffing, but whatever. And normally in these kind of books, he would have a plan, some super secret plan that would have gotten him out or whatever. But cool, Natalie does that. Dimitri comes down. Well, so Rose goes down to talk to Victor Dashkov. Don't remember why. But yeah, she goes on to talk to him. I think to talk about, oh yes. So the reason Victor Dashkov was even able to take Lisa was because Victor Dashkov charmed this charm this piece of jewelry that he got for Rose, and it was with a lust charm. So then Rose went over to Dimitri's room after she touched it, and this is why Rose wasn't with Lisa when she was abducted. And so Rose went to his room, and then Dimitri looks at her, and Rose was basically throwing herself at him. And then I think when Dimitri touched her or something, the charm spread to him as well. And so the charm, what Rose was going on to talk to Victor Dashkov about, was actually just a lust charm that should not exemplify, should strengthen the feelings that you already have. So for this to work, you should already have feelings for the person. And so I'm like, cool. And so she goes over to his room. They He touches her. They almost have sex. And then I think they realize that the charm is evil. He takes the charm from around her neck, throws it out the window. It breaks, and they're both back to their normal self. It takes her a little while to get the fogginess out of her head, but then she is able to read Lisa's emotions, realize she's being kidnapped, goes into her head. They go to the staff, I think the Headmaster Kurova. I love that character for some reason. I always love powerful headmasters like Dumbledore. It's always my thing. But yeah, they go talk to Headmaster Kurova. Cool. They go get Lisa back, and yeah, that was kind of the whole book. I think, let me check my Goodreads, but I think I gave this book 3 stars. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so for this book one, I give it 3 stars, which I thought, I was just like, okay, it was a book. It's a book. It was better than the last book I read. The last book I read was Inheritance Cycle, and the last book was Inheritance Cycle Book 4, which I gave a 2-star rating. So 3 stars for the first book. I'll give it a second book. It's a series. I'll give it a second book. Book 2. So book 2 starts with Rose and Rose and what's his name again? Dimitri going on a road trip to go to get some test for Rose. Cool. They go to the test, and they're about to knock on the door, but they realize that something's wrong with the house, and immediately Dimitri's guardian senses, because Dimitri's a guardian. He's like very good. Also, I forgot to give the characterization, but they always call Dimitri some kind of like god, right? He's like a god on the battlefield. And so Dimitri tells Rose to go back into the car and sit down right now because something's off. Rose goes, she sits down, but then for some reason she thinks that, oh, you know, I want to be a guardian, but I can't learn to follow orders. The guardian is like being in the military, and she's just not going to follow an order, a direct order, which she later states in the book that, oh, she's a guardian. Guardians take orders and they don't question it. But then she questions it. She gets out the car, finds a stake. They realize that humans have been working with Strigoi, which is another semi-plot hole. They realize that after they pick up the stake, they realize a Strigoi can't touch a stake. A stake is a charmed object that is used to impale a Strigoi through the heart, which is one of the ways to kill them, and it will kill them. So cool, like, okay, Rose finds this cool. They go inside the house. They realize that there are lots of bodies. There are lots of bodies from the Guardians, and the person who was going to give Rose's test is dead. Now there are a lot of Guardians there and a lot of Moroi there, so Dimitri realizes that this could not have been done by a single Strigoi. It would have had to have been done by a group, and in the history of this book, this has never happened. Like a Strigoi group, a band of Strigois has never happened due to their evil nature. They can't group together. So I thought it was rather weird then that they grouped together, and the Strigoi would not have been able to get on the property because they had wards, but the humans held the stake and impaled the wards. Now, when you do that, the wards fall or whichever, and the Strigoi are able to enter the territory. But then humans are helping Strigoi, and Strigoi are in large groups. Why is this happening? I don't know. No one tells us why it's happening, and it actually becomes something that just never gets picked up again. Why are the Strigoi in the groups? I thought maybe there was some super secret mastermind behind this whole thing, and we're going to get to meet the real big evil villain. But no, it doesn't happen. It seems like just plot convenience. Don't know, but that happens. In this book, we see Rose's best friend Mason. So from the first book, I just kind of omitted him because he's not that deep of a character. Mason is Rose's best friend. Clearly, he's always had feelings for her, but now in this book, he starts to step up those feelings and make it more known. Like he's not hiding it anymore. He's like letting her know he kind of likes her, but not explicitly saying that to her. But yeah, and so after they come back from, Rose comes back from that little situation where there was like a massacre. Everyone hears about it. It was at this family called the Badicas, and yeah, so that happened. They come back, and eventually everyone is so frightened because it was an attack so close to the academy. And so the academy is about to go to Christmas break. So they decide to have an area where everyone can go, family members alike, because they can't all hold in the school. Because family members normally come back for their children during Christmas time so that they can have some family Christmas memories. But they didn't do that this time. So instead, the school decided to host, like, I guess a family get together where everyone, their family could come at a ski resort in Idaho. Now, I don't know how close Idaho is to Montana, but anyways, they use private jets. They go there, cool. It's very cool, luxurious, rich, normal stuff for a very wealthy vampire school. And it seems as though Rose and Mason are kind of becoming a thing. Rose kind of accepts that Dimitri, because in the last book, like the ending of the last book, Dimitri told Rose that they can't be together because they'd both be guarding Lisa. Now, if two people are guarding Lisa, he says this one line that apparently, like, a lot of girls were going very crazy about, where he's like, if I, if we're both being guardians for the same person, then I could never do that, because if you're there, I would never put myself in front of Lisa to save her life, because I'd rather put myself in front of yours. Something to that extent. I read the line, and I don't know if I'm supposed to feel anything, because I don't feel anything. I don't feel anything from most of these kind of books, especially when there's romance there. I like romance, right? I really like romance, but for these romance books, I just haven't felt anything. Like, the only romance I've really felt, so there's Percy and Annabeth from Percy Jackson. I felt that romance. Of course, there's Ron and Hermione. I didn't agree with Ron being the person of Hermione's attraction, but I thought it was supposed to be Harry because that's kind of what it led up to, and then suddenly switched to Ron. But that's cool. I kind of felt Harry and Ginny's relationship. At least I felt. I don't know why, but I just liked it more. But ever since those books, I don't think I've felt a single romance. Oh, I semi felt Aragon and Arya from the Inheritance Cycle. But yeah, anyways, I'm not feeling this romance at all with her or Dimitri. But anyways, she can't be with Dimitri for that reason. So she tries to move on with her life and goes to Mason. Now Mason is the typical good guy, and Rose describes everyone on in this book on a scale of hot to not hot. So she tells us that Dimitri is very very hot, and she tells us this like over and over. And Dimitri is also 6'7", which is very very tall. Like, bro's almost 7 feet tall. Well, actually not almost 6'7", but he's very very tall. He's way taller than the average guy. Cool. She tries to move on. She tries to start dating her best friend Mason. She doesn't really like him. She keeps telling us that she doesn't really like him, but she's going to use him for convenience or something. I don't really get what she's talking about, but anyways, that's what she's doing. And eventually, we hear that there was another Strigoi massacre really close to Idaho, and Dimitri tells Rose in confidence that he tells her, "Oh, you can't tell anyone this, but this is where they're saying that a band of Strigoi is lurking around this area." Rose is upset with Dimitri because Dimitri, it's being heard that Dimitri might become a guardian for someone else. Because in the same way that he can't be around Rose because he might fall in love with her, to protect himself, he might have gone to Tasha Ozera. Now, who is Tasha Ozera? Tasha Ozera is actually the aunt of Lisa's boyfriend, which is Christian. I didn't mention him in the first book review either, which I guess I should have. But yeah, she's the aunt of Christian Ozera, who is looked down upon because his parents both turned to Strigoi willingly. So that whole branch, and they're actually royals, but that branch of the royals gets looked down upon, and so Tasha Ozera does not have a guardian because guardian politics. They don't want to give them guardians because one of their family members disgraced them. Cool. So he might go to Tasha Ozera, and remember, Tasha Ozera is a Moroi. So what does that mean? It means that Dimitri, being a Dhampir, could potentially have children with Tasha because she's a Moroi and Dampirs need Morois to have children. So he's probably like, whoa, he could get that chance. Or at least that's what people speculate. And yeah. So Rose hears about this and she's very upset with Dimitri. So she goes to Mason because of course when you're upset with the person that you're in love with, you just go and use someone else, which is something that Rose does all the time in this book, which really gets me. It really gets me. It really does. So she goes to Mason and she tells him the information about where the band of Strigoi is hiding. Mason gets overly like anxious and starts to want to go to fight the Strigoi. Not sure why. I think just it deals with the fact that Rose doesn't actually like him, and Rose hurt his ego one time and said, "You can't kill Strigoi." Basically, She basically said that to him, and I think that was like the turning point for Mason. He wanted to go and do that. And in this book, we also meet a next main character. His name is Adrian. Adrian is also a spirit user. This is so much to discuss. I've been talking for 40 minutes and I don't have any water. But anyways, Adrian is another spirit user, and he from the start seems to really like Rose. Now, I don't know if he's going to say later in the book he says that he's in love with her, but how could he be in love with her? He does not know this girl. He met this girl at the ski resort. He's really rich. He's an Ivashkov, and we learn that Tatiana, the Queen Tatiana, is an Ivashkov, and we learn that Adrian is the Queen's grand nephew. So we're like, cool. He's rich. He's like that. He's a spirit user, so he becomes a a normal person, a part of the group. Whatever. Anyways, Mason decides to get a band. Him, Mia, and Eddie. Him, Mia, Eddie. Was it him, Mia, Eddie? Yeah, him, Mia, and Eddie. They all decide to go to the place since it wasn't that far from Idaho, the Idaho resort, to fight the Strigoi on their own because the Guardians themselves said it's not good enough intel for them to go and attack Strigoi. Now, it should also be noted that in this time, hunting Strigoi was never something that you actually did. It was never like the Guardians would never take the offense on Strigoi. It was something that you didn't do. So them going like that, that's kind of taboo, right? Because the Guardians themselves, they're Guardians there, they wouldn't hunt the Strigoi themselves. Cool. The part that's not cool, however, is that when Rose finds out where they are, instead of telling the authorities for fear of them getting in trouble, because they're about to go and try to fight some viciously evil vampires who are. Did I mention that they're very strong? And so the reason why Mia, remember Mia, evil girl Mia, who was evil in book one, not evil, but she was bad in book one. The reason why she's going is because remember in that Badika slaughter, the Badika house, and I remember said Mia was poor. So in that house, Mia's parents worked. They were like I think they were like janitors in that house, and they also died because the Strigoi killed everyone. I think they drank their blood or something. And Mia's not Mia's parents, just her mom. Her mom died, so she has a legit reason to have like some kind of vengeance for these Strigoi evil undead things. And so she goes with them. She's a Moroi, so she needs protection anyways. So she's a Moroi. Then there's also Eddie, who's a Dhampir, and Mason, who's a Dhampir. So Mason, Eddie's Mason's best friend. They're both Dhampirs. They're pretty good at their job. Well, they're not. It's not their job yet. They're still in high school learning how to become Dhampir, like real guardians. But cool, right? They're doing that. They run off. Rose finds out that that's where they're going, and instead of alerting the authorities, she decides to go by herself with Christian Ozera, Lisa's boyfriend, for backup or something because she needs him to use compulsion on some guards. Now, compulsion is that same thing that Lisa can use that binds people to their will. Now, because Lisa is a spirit user, she's able to bind people to her will a lot more powerfully than normal Moroi because it's normally forbidden to use compulsion, but Moroi can't use compulsion on other Moroi, or normally they can. And so her ability to use compulsion is far superior to any normal person's ability. And so I don't know why she didn't take Lisa, but anyway, she takes Kristen instead, who's not as good at using compulsion, but eventually she gets to go out the gate through the ski resort and goes to find the people, her friends. Okay, cool, she finds them, she tells them to go back. She's like, no, we can't go back. Eventually she wins them over, but then they're like, let's just go check this one thing one last time. They go, they come out for some reason. Oh, yeah, Rose saw a picture on the wall and realized it meant something to do with the amount of royal families and the Strigoi wanted to kill them. And so they leave, they go into the street, they're kind of lost, they're walking. Oh my gosh, my thing just dropped. They're walking, cool, and then all of a sudden a car pulls up. It's with humans, the humans fight them. They put a gun to Mia's head, and they're like, if you move, they'll kill you. They tie up everyone, so now it's Rose, Christian, Eddie, Mason, Mia, who has a gun to her head, and they're pushing a car. Eventually, they get taken to a house, they get bound, and they're captive. They're now held captive. And then the Strigoi comes in because they're working for the Strigoi. As we said earlier, the humans are working for the Strigoi. They torture them because they want one of them to become Strigoi. They want either Mia or Christian Ozera to become Strigoi to bolster their ranks. Blah blah blah. And eventually, they make some kind of escape plan. They escape, but then Rose has to hold off two Strigoi which is unheard of because she's a student. She had told both of them off alone because obviously the Moroi matter more than her. So she had the other guys, Eddie and Mason, get the two Moroi, which are Christian and Mia, out of the area and into the sunlight. Because once they're in the sunlight, they're safe because Strigoi cannot go into the sunlight for their undead reasons or whatever. So Rose tries to hold him off, but doesn't seem like it's going to happen. But then Mason comes back in because remember Mason is madly in love with Rose. So Mason comes back in, cool. He tries to kill someone, but eventually Mason gets his neck cricked, like snapped, broken, and Rose goes all frenzy. She kills the two Strigoi with a dull sword somehow. And yeah, eventually Dimitri and the other guys get back to her and they save them or whatever. They don't save them because they already killed the two main Strigoi, and yeah. So that's mainly what happens. Mason dies. Rose feels very bad because Mason was only there and he only came back because he loved Rose and Rose did not feel the same for him. She always saw him as a friend and yet she kind of let him on. And so she felt very bad and blah blah blah. The book ends. Cool. I thought the book was a lot more entertaining because not only did we just switch from the school scene, we the we went to the what do you call it? The ski resort. You know, we met Adrian. We had some Life of the Wealthy they got invited to Adrian's party. And you know, she is not going to be with Demeter, so I was like, cool. And it was more interesting because they got held captive and they had to find some way out. And so I gave this book 4 stars. No, that's the highest rating I'd give any book from this series because it all goes downhill from there. So I already said the 3 things that I really disliked from that book. So now let's go to the 3 things, not 3 things, but I have, let's see, book 3. Book 3, I have almost as much. Actually, book 3, okay, it's between book 3 and book 4 for what I hated the most. But book 5, I didn't hate the most because at that point I was done with the series. But anyways, let's go. So book 3 starts with Rose. Really, she's seeing ghosts. So we don't know. I don't remember why exactly, but they were going places. I think they were going to court. Oh yes, yes. So remember that Victor Dashkov guy? So he hadn't actually gotten a prison sentence yet. So he was just chilling in the free world, right? Not the free world. He was in a prison, but he hasn't got like sentenced. He hasn't had a trial yet. So there's a trial. They don't invite Lisa and Rose for some reason, which are the people who would have most known. But even if you don't invite Rose because she's a lowly dampier, okay? They don't invite Rose, but they don't invite the person who you actually captured. I thought that was very sus, right? And let me see, what do I have it here? Okay, yeah. So they don't have Rose. And so Rose tries to get Dimitri to get her to go into the trial because for some reason Rose thinks Dimitri is a god. She sees him as this guy who can do anything as long as like anything at all. So she tries to get him to do that, but he can't. And eventually Adrian, remember Adrian, that guy who's also a spirit user, he's very rich, he's a grand nephew of Tatiana the Queen. He gets him in to the trial. Basically, Victor gets sentenced, but before he gets sentenced, he alludes to Rose's relationship with Dimitri, saying that Dimitri and Rose might have not she might not have gotten that far if Dimitri and Rose weren't further occupied with like some pedophilia or something like that. But everyone just thought he was just being Victor Dashkov, being mean, rude because he's now a villain for some reason. And then it goes into Rose really seeing ghosts. So the reason why Rose sees ghosts is because she started seeing ghosts the first time when she was flying in the plane to go to court because the reason why we're okay. Hold on, okay. So Victor Dashkov's trial, it is in the Moroi Royal Court. So the Moroi Royal Court is not near the school. They have to take a plane and go to the Moroi Royal Court where the Queen lives. Blah blah blah. And so when they leave the school, when the plane flies off from the school, she starts to get these terrible headaches, and she starts to see ghosts. And we don't know why. Eventually, she comes back down. When she gets back down into court, the ghosts go away, and she's fine again. But yeah, that kind of happens. It's something that happens, and they go to court. Victor Dash will get sentenced, and then they go back. And when they're going back, a terrible snowstorm is happening. So Rose has a really bad headache in the sky, and they can't land in the normal area that they'd landed. They had to land at an alternate airport. That's so cool. They do that, and Rose still has these horrible visions of these ghosts and these white things looking at her, and her head feels like it's splitting in two. Eventually, they get back, and she's fine again. But now she's able to see Mason when she gets back to the academy. Now, Mason is a ghost for some reason. And at this time, she is doing some tests with her guardian, some guardian tests where they take a Moroi, like a Moroi child, like Lisa, all the Morois in that year, and the guardians are supposed to like protect them for like a mock exam. So they're protecting them, and she sees Mason in the middle of her protection of some other guy. She didn't get Lisa, which she was very upset about. She got Christian Azera, her boyfriend, who Rose happens to hate, and so she's guarding him, and then a teacher springs out to pretend to go against her, but then she sees Mason at the exact same time, and so she blanks out. And this guy, she just saw his neck get split in two. She feels very bad about that, like it was her fault, and blah blah blah. Eventually, she gets therapy, but the main issue I had this whole time, right? This whole time when she was saying that she saw Mason as a ghost, was why did no one believe her? Okay, so if you came to me in real life and were like, "Oh, I saw a ghost," 9 chances out of 10, I'm probably not going to believe you, right? I'm probably not. But we're talking about a person who was literally raised from the dead. Rose, Rose literally died. Her best friend can bring her back to life. Vampires who like these guys are vampires. I find it hard to believe that they have such a limiting belief system that they wouldn't believe in ghosts. Like someone must have mentioned this before. But anyways, we find out that she sees ghosts because she is she is also, what do you call it again? Shadow kissed, which is that thing that Anna had, where she was brought back and she has that bond and she was brought back to life. So she is closer to the realm of the dead than the living, but also she's not dead. So in sometimes she can kind of see the dead when she gets closer to death. And I'm like, okay, I still don't get why no one believed her. She finds that out, and so we know she's not lying. But the next thing that really irked me in this book was Rose is a user, right? So actually, I think I should. Okay, I'm going to leave that one for later on in the same book theory review. But let's go to the next point, which is, well, I already spoke about why Lisa wasn't asked to be at the trial. But anyways, Lisa goes to the trial. Tatiana tells Rose, like after the trial, Tatiana asks to speak to Rose. Rose goes. She tells Rose that Rose needs to ease off Adrian because she plans to marry Adrian to Lisa. But Rose wasn't even going at Adrian. She's not trying to be with Adrian or anything like that. She wasn't even dating him or even play dating him. He just liked her. She didn't like him back. Cool. But then Rose, the part that gets me like kind of triggered is Rose gatekeeps that information. So she tells her that her best friend is going to be married off to Adrian Ivashkov for whatever reason. And she doesn't think to tell her best friend. She's like, oh, Lisa has too much on her plate. But what I don't like is who made you the decider, right? Who told you that Lisa has enough on her plate? Why can't you tell Lisa? Like, yes, you're being trying to be cool, but you are not her mother. Like at this time, these times, it's like Rose is trying to take on a motherly role, but you are not her mother. You are her friend, and you hear that your friend is going to be forcibly married off to someone, and you're not going to tell her. Of course, when she finds out, she's going to be upset, and it's just like one of those stupid things that affects a relationship for no reason. So when they're upset with each other later on, I don't get why this even had to happen because Rose was just stupid and she deserves to be upset with. But yeah, she eventually, right? They realize that they didn't realize before, but eventually they realize that Rose is taking the darkness from Lisa. And at one point, I won't explain why because it's too much explaining. But at one point, Lisa's out near the border of the academy for some reason, and so Rose goes over there to protect her because she realizes she's in some trouble with other students. No one serious, just some other students. She beats up the students, but she realizes that Lisa was going to torture the students with their power, and that's not like Lisa at all. As we know, Lisa is the super caring, gentle girl who wants to heal every dead animal, whatever. But yeah, she's that kind of person, and so Rose takes in all that darkness that Lisa was having, and then Rose has the darkness, and then Rose starts to beat the people up and almost kills them. Like she would have definitely killed them if Dimitri didn't come and pull her off with some other guardians. I think it was just Dimitri or maybe some other guardians. She pulled them, yeah, some other guardians. He pulled her off, brought her to go cool off her head in a cabin, and they have sex. Yeah, so I was so perplexed. right? So perplexed. He brings her to this cabin. They have sex. I'm just like, what? Do they not have like a rule that says that you're not supposed to do that? Like, I just don't know, right? I just don't know. Like, I was so, I thought it was so taboo, and I didn't even enjoy the scene. Right? Of course, I think the scene was supposed to be like very cool, but I didn't think it was cool. I didn't enjoy the scene. I don't think I've enjoyed a single sex scene that I've read ever. I think for me, I personally just prefer like you give me five books, and then they have a first kiss. I think I really enjoy those. I think it's like pretty cool. Nothing is wrong with the sex scenes. I just think I haven't read a sex scene that is more tailored to my choices, right? Like not that I'm anything into anything weird, but just like it just felt too formulaic. The sex scene that she's talking about, like, oh, it felt so great. Her body pressed against his, and it felt like they were the only people in the world. Like a bunch of those like buzzwords, I'd call them, and it just wasn't hitting, right? So, but anyways, I assume it even should hit, because it shouldn't hit because this is grossly inappropriate. But yeah, they have sex, and yeah, right after they have sex, they go out. They're holding hands, and then Mason comes up, and Mason has been saying something to Rose. That's why he's been popping up. This is not the first time, but a bunch of times he's been popping up in front of Rose and pointing in a direction. And now we finally get what he's saying. He was never able to speak before, but this time he's able to speak, and his words are, "They're coming." Okay, I tried to say that in ghost words, but it sucked. But he just said, "They're coming," and immediately she felt this wave of nausea. So why she feels this, I'm not sure. It's because the Strigoi. So she's able to sense Strigoi now because she's closer to the dead, and the Strigoi are like also kind of undead. So she's able to sense them. So she has this wave of nausea. And for the first time, I have something good to say about Rose. Dimitri barks at her and tells her to go to the school and tell the other teachers, the instructors, what has happened. And he gives her a code word. And for the first time, Rose doesn't question him. She doesn't go back on any orders. She just runs as fast as she can and and leaves Dimitri to fight for himself. She doesn't know how many Strigoi there are, but she just runs and does this. Finally, I was hoping, right? I hoped when she gets back, Dimitri would be dead. I was hoping that she would come back just in time with the teachers to see Dimitri's head being ripped off or something cool like that. But no, it doesn't happen. Teachers go, they subdue them. But then Rose is given a position to stay guard next to a window, and of course, Rose thinks she's too good to stand guard next to a window, even though the rest of the students are just being huddled into a square. And she jumps out the window and goes to fight because she realizes that Christian Azera, the person who she was supposed to be guarding, is in a cathedral. Now, if he was anywhere at all, that is the most safe place to be, right? Christian being in a cathedral, because Shigoi cannot go into the cathedral. But anyway, she runs out there, she gets him out the cathedral. They go out, they start killing Shigoi left, right, and center because Christian has firepower, so he uses his firepower. Then they kill them together. They kill all the Shigoi, cool, but then they find out that the Shigoi took people back with them. They took hostages, and when Shigoi take people, they normally just write them off as dead, but they didn't like that. Okay, and cool, yeah. So they didn't like that, and what was I saying? Yeah, they didn't like that. But then Rose said what Rose did is Rose went outside the borders. So the reason why Mason was able to get into the school in the first place as a ghost is because there's something wrong with the wards, right? Because the wards keep out the undead, and by that definition, ghosts are undead. So he shouldn't be able to come in, but he's able to come in because the wards were broken. And so he was always pointing towards the wards, to the edge of camp where the wards were, but she never got a hint. Okay, I won't kill her, but me personally, if someone pointed in a direction, and they're a ghost, and they're a ghost of someone you can trust, I would probably go in that direction. Maybe not alone. I'm not saying she has to go alone. Maybe with a teacher. Like, I don't know, the one she just had sex with, Dimitri. Yeah. So, anyways, that happens. She goes. She asks Mason where they are. Mason tells her where they are. She goes back to a guardian meeting, and she tells everyone, "Oh, this is what it is. Cool." They're like, "Oh, really? Wow. Um, we'll go and fight them." Now, this is unprecedented because they never ever seek Shigure out, but it turns out to be like 5 minutes from the school. So they go there, boom, 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 bunch of fighting. They get the hostages out, and then when they're already about to leave, Dimitri stays behind to fight someone off. He gets out. They're all running. Rose looks back. She sees him running, and then he gets ambushed by a Strigoi. And when he gets ambushed by this Strigoi, what happens is well, we don't know. uh Rose's mother kept telling her to keep running. I didn't mention Rose's mother much because they don't have a very good relationship. So she kept telling Rose to just keep running. And so they ran away. They had to leave Dimitri there. Then, as soon as they get there, Rose decides she wants to go back. She doesn't go back. Someone slaps sense into her. Not literally, but I wish it was literally. She goes out the border. I think she goes right out the edge of the border. And this is where I was talking about Rose as a user earlier. She's literally a user. So she goes out the border and then she says, she calls Mason. She starts screaming Mason's name, and she asks where Dimitri is. And she asked if Dimitri is dead. He said no, he's not dead. So she's like happy, but then she's like, is he at Shigoi? And Mason shakes his head, yes, he's at Shigoi. Or nods his head, sorry, not shakes. And then she's very upset. But what I thought was ridiculous of that, you're going to ask the ghost guy, the guy who loved you, or if not loved, really liked you, where this teacher guy is that you just had sex with. Like, as a ghost, can he see that? Can he see that they just had sex? Probably he could. Probably he's a little jealous. And she's out there just using him, not no regard for his little ghost like feelings. And I thought that was ridiculous. And also, in this book, there was a fortune teller trope while they were at the court, which is where the queen lives, as I said before. This fortune teller trope where the fortune teller was like, oh, you will lose the thing that you value most, so treasure it while you can. And I was very glad about this because it meant that Dimitri's soul, because they were talking about Dimitri now, she said that to Dimitri, and it means that Rose isn't the most important thing to Dimitri, because they like to say some stupid stuff like that. Like, how can he be the most important thing when they just met? And they shouldn't even be together. But anyways, it was Dimitri's soul that was most important to him, and they're saying that because he turned Sigor, he lost his soul. Um, and so in this book, they also tell us that. Wait, let me see. Yeah, so they tell us why Rose and Dimitri are together, and he's like, "You act young," he said, "because you are young, but you know things, Rosa." Rosa is like his little play name for her because her name's Rose, and Rosa is like Rose in Russian. Things people older than you don't even know. That day, I knew instantly which day he referred to. The one up against the wall. You were right about how I fight to stay in control. No one else has ever figured that out, and it scared me. You scare me. Why? Don't you want anyone to know? He shrugged. Whether they know that fact or not doesn't matter. What matters is that someone, that's you, know me that well. When a person can see into your soul, it's hard. It forces you to be open, vulnerable. It's much easier being with someone who's just more of a casual friend, like Tasha. Cool. And I also appreciate that he it's just so first of all I thought that was kind of like okay, so he's in love with her because she can read him. No, I've never been in love, so maybe I can't really speak, but I just thought maybe, friendship first. You become a very good friend with someone, and then you kind of start to love their personality, you start to love them. But anyways, then they discuss the fact that it's wrong for them to be together. He's like, it's wrong for us to be together. He says yes. Because of the age difference, yes. So he knows, he knows he's choosing to do this, but more importantly, because we're going to be Lisa's guardians and he's to focus on her, not each other. And then she said yes, and then she thought about it for a moment, and then she looked into his eyes and she said, "Well," I said at last, "the way I see it, we aren't Lisa's guardians yet." And then she was about to say she assumed he was going to say something bad, but eventually he just kissed her instead. And then, of course, time stopped as he reached out and cupped her face between his hands. He brought his mouth down and brushed it against her lips. It was barely a kiss at first, but okay. So you see, these things, I just read the words. I'm really not getting the scene. I don't know if I'm supposed to get the scene. Like, I really just don't get it, to be honest. I'm reading books, and when I see these scenes, I just don't get them. I don't know if they're meant for girls or if I just, sorry. That was actually from book two. Not gonna lie, but that was only from book two. Cool. And yeah, so like I just don't get those scenes, and so I don't know if it's me or if I should find another genre to read. But anyways, when she asked Mason if Dimitri was a Shigoi and Mason says yes, I thought it was the most obvious thing yet. Like, obviously they're going to make the love interest turn as Shigoi. I thought, no, this is the chance for the book to be good. I thought it was a chance for the book to be like actually intense and for some reason. Wait, did I talk about yeah, I talked about the fortune teller, and it just didn't happen. Like it didn't happen. I'm going to tell you right now, it didn't happen. So we learned that Dimitri turns out Shigoi, cool. We also learned that he goes to Russia, which is his home country, and yeah. But then we know Adrian still had feelings for Rose, and eventually it's Adrian. She goes to so Adrian has feelings for Rose, and Rose goes to Adrian and asks Adrian if she can have money because she's going to go to Russia to try to kill Dimitri. Because she's saying because she loves him so much, and if it was her, he did the same for her, and he wished he shouldn't have to live like that. So I'm like, cool, something to spice things up, right? And then the book ends that right there. Okay, yeah, the book ends. And that's all of book three. Now, book four, I thought I would have loved the book four, right? Book four is called Blood Promise. So I was like, it's a sick title, right? All the titles were okay, but this is a sick title, especially knowing the series. So book four starts with Rose finally going out and deciding to go to Russia to try to kill him. She meets with an alchemist. We learn what alchemists are. I'm not going to explain that because it's kind of boring. And basically, she finds the hometown of Dimitri and she lives there for a little bit with his family. She tells his family what happened because no one bothered to tell them. And yeah, what happens is kind of boring for most of this book, but eventually Rose goes off on a Shigoi killing spree with some of these people. I don't know what they call themselves, like Shigoi killers, like or unorganized. They're not guardians. They go actively and try to kill Shigoi, which, as I said earlier, is very taboo. So these Shigoi killers are there. She goes with them to find and kill some Shigoi to find Dimitri. She holds Shigoi captive for us a bit. Tells them that Rose Hathaway is looking for Dimitri. And let Dimitri know. Dimitri finds out. Dimitri captures her and carries her to an apartment where there's nothing that she can use to kill him, and she before he captures her, she's about to kill him, and then she hesitates, and he's like, "Oh, what's the first lesson I told you, Rose? Don't hesitate." And he hits her so hard she blacks out. Wakes up in the apartment, very luxurious, and then it just goes like a couple, like 400 pages. I don't actually know how many pages. It just felt like a lot of pages. I don't actually, I can't really know how many pages. I'm reading it on ebook format, so ebook format like doesn't actually show the same amount of pages because I have it like zoomed up with the words. The words are a little bigger, and it's just like so many pages of just the same thing. Like he comes over, he bites into her neck, they make out, almost have sex. He bites into her, and he bites into her from a Shigoi, a very powerful Shigoi. That was what he was, and it made her really happy. Like endorphins were pouring into her body. I'm like, cool, cool. Can we get to the point? Eventually, Rose gets out of the captivity, and I think finally she finds her stake, which is very unrealistic, by the way, very unrealistic. But it's not the most unrealistic thing to happen in this book, and you'll find out later in the next book, actually, which is a book I dropped. But anyways, she gets this thing. Dimitri runs after her. They get to this thing. She finally outwits him. You see what I hate in books? I hate books like last book, like Inheritance Cycle that I read. Like the ending when he killed. Oh, sorry. Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. 3, 2, 1. I'm going to say the spoiler of the Inheritance Cycle, book 4, Inheritance. He killed Galbatorix, but not out of some like actual way. He killed him because of some luck. He thought of something in the moment, kind of luck. I prefer when you completely outplay someone to kill them. So in this case, Rose knew that Dimitri wanted to turn her Shigoi. So the whole book was Dimitri trying to turn Rose Shigoi, but he wanted to do it willingly. That's why he came to her all the time, and after he captured her, and he wanted her to turn Shigoi because she'd be so powerful and they could rule the world together. Blah blah blah. Now Rose finally outplays him. She jumps off a bridge, and she knows he's going to catch him. He catches her, and with her other hand that she was holding, she held her stake and she plunged it into his heart. And I thought, beautiful scene. Finally, this guy is gone, and Rose can move on because it felt like Rose cannot evolve as a character as long as Dimitri was there. I thought that was such a brilliant scene. I would have loved this. Like the whole of the pages of this book could have been written off for how bad they were if it wasn't for just this part. If I mean because of just this part, and I was so happy that Dimitri was finally dead. But of course, she didn't actually plunge his heart hard enough, and so he sends it. And so when she finally makes her way all the way back to America from Russia, she gets a message from Dimitri with a package, which is her stake, saying, "I something about like you hesitated again, but the next time I will find you and I will kill you, or blah blah blah. I was just like, there is no way. They just built up this really nice way for her to kill Dimitri and end it all, and then they brought him back, and I thought that was so ridiculous. So this is my least favorite book because of that. I thought it was going to be so good because of that, but it was my least favorite book. I had that written down, had to say that, and I thought for a moment that she was going to get over Dimitri and kill him. And I think that Dimitri is a cockroach. Like, why does this guy just not die? This guy just needs to die, right? And again, I saw this book as a loss of potential. I thought this book had a lot of potential. Like, that I thought that if Rose killed him, that would have been cool. But I also thought that we could have seen Rose turn Shigoi, because the whole time Dimitri captured her for like weeks, like 3 weeks, and 3 weeks in a book when they're just talking about every single day. It's a lot of pages. So I thought she was going to finally turn Shigoi. She was about to. She didn't end up. But I would have loved if she turned Shigoi. Why? Because we finally get that. We get to that like level of character where it's like Eren from Attack on Titan. I don't watch anime anymore because I quit it for school. But anyways, I really love that anime. So Eren from Attack on Titan, where he's now, I think he's like, I stopped watching at season 4, but clearly he became like some evil guy. And I thought we were going to get a great area character like that, where Rose becomes evil, kind of. And I thought this would have been great for multiple reasons, because if Rose became a Sugoi, not only would we get the perspective of life from a Sugoi's perspective, but we'd also have Lisa finally toughen up. I thought Lisa would be able to get a little stronger because of that, and fight her best friend. Now, the reason why this would have been great is because it was being toyed around with the idea for Moroi to start learning to fight by themselves and not just use Dampiers for protection. So it would have been a great direction for the books to go to, but that didn't happen. It just ended lame and normal stuff like that. Also, Sydney Sage, I liked her. Okay, so that was actually so unfortunate. My phone just died. And for a second there, I thought I just lost an hour and 11 minutes of recording. But that didn't happen. So I just checked the recording just to see what was the last thing I said. My phone should be plugged in now, so hopefully it doesn't die again. But the last thing I said was about Sydney Sage, which was the alchemist I was talking about. I thought Sydney Sage was actually interesting with her monsters. She said that the Dampiers, Moroi, and the Shigoi are all like monsters of the night. That was her belief, and I appreciated someone who's a little different, just something else to add. I thought the whole time to get to Dimitri's household, and even in his household, was very boring. I thought the whole book was boring, like that, all that part. The only part I thought was very good was, I thought it was very good when he was torturing her. Like, interesting, I mean, not good in a good sense, but I thought it was interesting when he was torturing her. But overall, it was just like a lame book. And yeah, I was also going to talk about this character called Avery, but I honestly can't bother. Avery was like a literal one book character. She ended up having spirit. She was just trying to get Lisa to die. So because if she had spirit, she could bring Lisa back to life. And when Lisa's back to life, then she would have a bond with Lisa, and she'd be able to pour her darkness into Lisa and kind of like control Lisa. But whatever, that doesn't happen. Rose stops her, blah blah blah. And another thing that kind of bugged me was when Rose got back to America. Instantly, she didn't take any Rose time for herself. Instantly, right? Instantly, she just got back with Adrian. Not got back, but she just got with Adrian. Like, did she not take a single second just to like? She didn't know Dimitri was alive at that time, right? She just got back, and she's with him already. She should have taken like a little time just to like relax and think about life. She just got back into school, relax, but she's already dating Adrian Ivashkov. Well, she's not really dating him, really. She's not really dating him, but she said she'd give him a chance, and so she's like, she tells him to make a list or whatever. Unless my memory is incorrect, but I just remember them dating so fast right after she's supposed to have gone through so much trauma. She needs a therapist. But anyways, if I know Dimitri's not dead, I'm at rock bottom with this series now. And so I just kind of like go on to the next book. I remember telling my mom, especially, that I really dislike this book, but I moved on to book 5 anyways. And as I said, book 5 is actually my least favorite book of the series. I know I said that for the last book, but it's just kind of been a trend. Like, every book since book 2 has just been my least favorite book of the series. But this book, book five, I think is actually the worst book of the series, just because I read everything else, and at this point, I'm just, I'm just sad that I just lost all my life force with that. But let's talk about it. What did I not like about this book? So you see, when Harry Potter broke into Gringotts, which is their wizard bank, okay, whack, super whack. Don't get me wrong, super whack. They had to use forbidden curses, but okay. I still think it was ridiculous that they even got in. But I let it slide because the book, I really enjoyed the book. This book, they decide to break into a modern day prison, right? Like they break into a modern day prison and free Victor Dashkov. Because Victor Dashkov might know a person who might know how to turn Strigoi back to human. Humans, not humans, Dampiers or Moroi. And why does Rose want to do this? Because she wants to save Dimitri. So this whole book is actually just about her trying to get to Victor Dashkov and save Dimitri. Or actually, it's not the whole book because it actually ends so fast. Like they just went there like it was first try plan, and they just found out where it was, Tartarus or whatever it's called, and they got there. They got Victor Dashkov out. They found his brother. His brother told him to charm a stake with spirits in there, and then stake it through a vampire's heart, a Strigoi's heart. But it has to be a Moroi who strikes the Strigoi. So this especially would have been so nice if it was that Lisa knew about this information. If Rose had turned as Strigoi, that would have been great because they would have found like a 1v1 duel with Lisa versus Rose, where Lisa takes a stake and strikes Rose through the heart, and then Rose comes back to being a Dampier. But no, she's going to have Lisa. Rose going to have Lisa strike Dimitri. But anyways, that happens, you know. But no, this is the part where I had problems with. So it took Victor Dashkov a decent amount of time to tell them what they wanted to know. And what I didn't get is, if Lisa is supposed to be super powerful with their spirit powers, why didn't she just use compulsion on Victor Dashkov to get the information out? Now I know Victor Dashkov probably has a higher resistance to compulsion than the average person, but if Lisa really put her foot behind it, could she really not compel Victor Dashkov? Because then her powers would not seem as cool as they should be, right? So I was thinking, get that and then find out where the guy is, go to the guy's house, and deal with it some way. But anyways, even if you were to break him, but anyways, the more realistic thing I was thinking of, if she's at this point in the book, it's book five. Lisa's in really good with the queen right now, right? Ask the queen, tell the queen that you need to go and speak to Victor Dashkov. I know the queen's not very trustworthy, but she has power, and she could probably get you a meeting with Victor Dashkov, and she's very interested in Lisa for whatever reason. So I was thinking, ask the queen, like, why don't you do that? And she didn't, but they didn't do that. But I thought if she asked the queen, they could have gone. And not only could Lisa have done that, Lisa could have gone with other people like Adrian. She could have gone with Adrian, Christian, and some other guys. And if they all put their power together to compel Victor, there's no way you could overpower them. So even if she couldn't do it alone, she could have brought people. Right? But they didn't do that. They did like some dumb way. And then like I'm skipping through, but then Rose finally, eventually Dimitri tells Rose that he's going to find her wherever she is and kill her, blah blah blah. But then not Rose, Lisa goes out the borders, like the wards, and then Dimitri captures Lisa and Christian, and then Rose goes to save them. When she goes with all the guardians. The guardians go. Rose goes, tries to kill Dimitri. She's about to kill Dimitri. Lisa pushes her out the way. Christian uses his firepower, puts a ring around Dimitri so he can't move. Lisa takes a stick, strikes it through Dimitri's heart, and Dimitri comes back to life as a Dampier. So in caps right here, I have, why is Dimitri still alive? I hate this character. Very much so. Dimitri is such I would say he's a flat character. There's nothing about this guy, right? Like I thought he would have been cool. He's very tall, and he's apparently very hot. So those are his two attributes. And he's very good at guardian duty. That's all I know about the guy, and it's not very good. Also, Rose Loki becomes a blood whore in this book. Like, not really, but she's making out with Adrian because she obviously, as I said before, she just uses guys as a crutch. So Demetria just told her that he doesn't want anything to do with her. So she goes to Adrian. They're about to have sex, but then they realize they don't have protection, and it would not be very good for her to have a child right now. So she steps up and says no, which I thought was great. And of course, Adrian was very good at like responding. He was like, "Okay, cool, no problem." They stopped, and then Rose offered him her neck, and he bit her neck, and that's kind of like he bit her neck after a little bit of making out, which is kind of like blood horror activities. So I don't know if she minded that, but you know, as I said, I don't really get the taboo, but I just thought it was weird for someone for Rose to hate that idea so much to then do that, and not just do it, but to do it and feel no consequences about it. But yeah, and then next we find out that Rose is going to jail, not jail, but a semi prison because she's being tried because she is they think she's guilty of killing the queen. So the queen is dead, right? The queen is dead, and the way the queen dies is because they see Rose's stake through her heart. Now, apart from the fact that how on earth would Rose get to the queen's chambers? Like Rose does not even know where that is. How would she get there? Apart from that, why would Rose use her own stake? Like they're like Moroi are not very powerful. She could have used anything and killed her, but she didn't. But yeah, so that's the whole drama going on in this book, and that's kind of like all that happened. I kind of dropped the series. I dropped the series right there, right? So after this book, I dropped it. I started a new book, which is Last Sacrifice, and I read the first time. I couldn't do it. So now I'm reading a different book. But anyways, before I get to that, so that was the entirety of the book. That was the entirety of the series. I really tried to go through everything, every part of the book, every major plot point. I know it might sound like a lot of rambling as well, and no one's actually going to watch this. But if someone does ever watch this, and you have book recommendations, I would really love that because right now I'm reading A Court of Thorns and Roses. Another book recommended by YouTubers. So I think this one was recommended by it's either Carrie Can Read or someone like that. I've been watching a lot of Carrie Can Read recently, and I really created this video because I wanted something like to talk to people about. Because for example, when I first read Harry Potter last July, I instantly went on reviews after that, which was Murphy Napier. Murphy Napier had some amazing Harry Potter reviews, which I was like, I felt so immersed in the world because I had people to talk about with it. Like I mean, not like talk to her, but I could watch her videos and watch the discussions about it, and that was cool. But now for a series like this, like Vampire Academy, I finished the series. Oh, I'm not finished it, but I'm done with the series. And I look on YouTube, and there's like one video, and it's from Carrie Can Read, and she's explaining the plot, and I know the plot because I just read the book, and I do not want to go through the plot again. I just wanted a discussion, really. And so I'm going to do some more discussions on this later. But yeah, this is pretty lengthy for a first video. But yeah, that was basically all. Oh, and this on the screen, if you didn't realize, this was the Vampire Academy. These are all the covers. So book one, book two, book three, book four, book five, book six. Just to have an idea, because every time I look at this, I remember like, oh, this was for the ski resort. I remember this was like the last one I didn't watch, Shadow Kiss. I thought that was kind of cool. Blood Promise. The reason I know Blood Promise because I saw lots of people talking about Blood Promise, and Blood Promise, I believe it also has the highest rating out of the series on Goodreads. Let me check. So Blood Promise has 4.31. Shadow Kiss, which is the third book, has oh wait no it doesn't. Shadow Kiss has 4.34. Frostbite 4.26. Spirit Bound 4.33. Wow. So 1, 2, 3 all have 4.3 plus ratings. This has 4.11 and this has 4.26, like book 2. I thought yeah. You see, this is why I'm so confused if I'm reading these books properly because there's no way these people are giving these books for like how is it getting 4.3 stars? That means a good amount of people have been rating it 5 stars and not that many people are rating it below that. Well, I mean a decent amount, but still that's a lot of rating, and I just really dislike the book. So please give me some book recommendations. The last books I read, so I'm telling you right now I'm reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, but this was not the first book I read after Vampire Academy. As soon as I finished that, I tried to read American Gods, but American Gods was so boring. I got to the point where I think he had just left the America Hotel and they were going on the road, something like that. After he was drugged, or after he saw his wife who had died. The book was really boring to me, so I stopped. Inheritance Cycle, I read that last. I already said that was kind of lame. But before that, I read Artemis Fowl. Artemis Fowl was the worst book I have ever read in my entire life. I gave it a 1 star on Goodreads. Before that, I read the Hunger Games series. I did not like the Hunger Games series, so it's been a long time since I've enjoyed a book. Before that, I read Butcher Than the Movies. Before that, the Shadow and Bone series. Before that, the Inheritance Games, different from the Inheritance Cycle. The Inheritance Games is like a kind of a romance book. Before that, the Calling of Morgan Crow series, that one. Before that, The Alchemist by Paul Coelho, because I thought that could give me some kind of purpose in life, but it didn't. It was lame. Then before that, I watched the To All I not watched I read the To All the Boys I've Ever Loved series. Before that, Keeper of the Lost Cities, because that had like 9 books. Before that, Howl's Moving Castle. Then Percy Jackson, and then before that, Harry Potter. So I have not been reading for that long. Let me see. On Goodreads, I documented the Harry Potter for the very first Harry Potter book at July 17th. I remember that I read the Harry Potter books back to back to back, like daily. Like, because I was reading at that point like 15 hours a day. I would just read all day at that point in time because I was really into it right there. Harry Potter and Percy Jackson, I was really into those series. So let me see. When did I read Percy Jackson? I read Percy Jackson July 27th. So I finished Percy Jackson on that day, and it has 5 books. And if I started Harry Potter I finished the first Harry Potter book on July 17th, and July 27th, I finished the last Percy Jackson book. I think we can say I was reading a lot. I also kind of enjoyed the first 3 books of Keeper of the Lost Cities, but after that, so the last book I really thoroughly enjoyed was Keeper of the Lost Cities book 2, and I finished that July 29th. These are some really fast reads. I'm looking at this now. July 29th. So I haven't enjoyed a book since July 29th. So that's a problem. So if you have any book recommendations, please help me out here. But yep, that is all for this video. I hope actually no one watched this, but hopefully if one day someone watches this, you'll see other videos from here, and hopefully by then I will have actually enjoyed a book and given a 5-star book rating from like after this date, because I haven't read a 5-star, and A Court of Thorns and Roses is kind of boring right now, I cannot lie. But yeah, thank you for watching.